Every once in a while, I'll play a game that resonates with me so much that I try to chase that feeling it gave me, even weeks after I experience it. And in many cases, I won't be able to replicate how it made me feel, even by replaying that very same game. So many games nowadays feel like they are made to maximize attention economy with battle passes, in-game cosmetics, seasons, and multiple different in-game currencies. Like, what is this? Why are there so many? But this just makes it all the more special when a game comes along that truly captivates you, immersing you fully in its world for the duration of your playthrough. The last video seemed to do very well, so I will be using that as an excuse to talk about some more of my favorite games that give you an experience that I think cannot be replicated. So without further ado, the only Nintendo product I owned growing up was a second-hand Nintendo Game Boy, so I never really got into the Metroid or Castlevania series ever. As crazy as it is to say, and true for many people probably, Hollow Knight was my introduction to the Metroidvania genre. So I can't really comment on how innovative Hollow Knight is for the genre as a whole, but I can say the game absolutely slaps. As soon as I started playing the game, it was hard to put it down. Anytime I wasn't playing the game during my first playthrough, I was thinking about it. I shot through it in just a few days, and I would give anything to feel that lost again. The feeling of exploration in a first playthrough is unmatched. The atmosphere and environmental storytelling just sucks you in. The backdrops were constantly impressing me with how detailed and thought out they were. Ever wonder why it rains in City of Tears, even though it's located underground? The rain is actually water leaking through the ceiling from the blue lake. That blew my mind when I first found out. The game has some of the most memorable boss fights I have ever fought. I think Mantis Lords, or the buffed version, Sisters of Battle, is my favorite fight in the game. It feels so fluid, and once you get it down, it's almost like a dance. There's a rhythm to it. The game doesn't really have any stinkers either. Even the smaller boss fights are really enjoyable. Doing the Pantheons, or boss rushes for those unfamiliar, are really fun. I never really sigh upon seeing any particular boss, except maybe Zote, fuck Zote. Hollow Knight excels in being both casual and also hard, if that's what you want to seek out. The game has an interesting story and world for those who enjoy the storytelling side. While the bosses aren't too insane, it's easy to approach it as a story game. If you're a masochist and enjoy all the challenge, you can seek out the Path of Pain, an excruciating platforming course located in the White Palace. Or if fighting is your forte, you can try your hand at Pantheon 5, the hardest boss rush in the game. For me personally, the big draw of Hollow Knight, and the reason it's not the same on a replay, was the exploration and world building. Discovering the world for the first time and going in totally blind was what made the experience so special. I still have the 5th Pantheon to beat, so I still technically have content left in the game, but it doesn't feel the same. Hollow Knight to me was that first experience. Being totally lost in what felt like an abandoned world, navigating it and piecing together why the world was so barren. And of course, Hollow Knight being my first Metroidvania meant every subsequent game I played in the genre would have big standards to meet. Except I was kind of the opposite of that mindset. I seeked out other Metroidvanias chasing that feeling but lowering my expectations so I could still enjoy those games. And I did. I played games made by solo developers that slapped. Or even the newest Prince of Persia game, that's very underrated by the way. Hollow Knight not only introduced me to a new genre, but it made me fall in love with that genre, and became the new golden standard moving forward. Okay, we are entering Outer Wilds level of I cannot speak about this game without ruining your experience if you haven't played it, so this segment will be brief and spoiler-free. Tunic is a Zelda-inspired isometric action game where you have to collect pages of a game manual and piece together the rules of the world. It's such an insanely unique and fun concept. I was constantly baffled by how cool this was as a way of learning how to progress. Genuinely one of my favorite ways a game helps the player to keep on track. The game has combat, which the Steam reviews will have you believe it's a Souls-like. I don't think it was ever hard enough to justify that comparison. There is a lot of exploration in a reasonably large world and a shit ton of secrets. I can't go into too much detail, but the depth this game goes with its secrets is absolutely mental. When you think the game is over, it has only just begun. All I will say is there is a good reason many people lump Tunic in with similar games like Outer Wilds, in the sense that you cannot replay it once you learn certain things. Tunic is a phenomenal game and absolutely worth playing if you haven't already. What Remains of Edith Finch is a story-based game that often gets categorized as a walking simulator, which I guess it is, but the term feels like it has a negative connotation. Nevertheless, I think it's a testament to how good the storytelling is that a walking simulator can be so highly rated. Although, I can name plenty of great quote-unquote walking simulators. Stanley Parable, The Beginner's Guide, Firewatch, SOMA. I'm beginning to think the term is a nothing burger. Anyway, back to Edith Finch. The game follows Edith Finch as she returns to her childhood home that her family has grown up in for generations. As she explores the long-abandoned house, she recounts the lives of her relatives. It's like an anthology of short stories covering the Finch family tree. These videos are hard to make because I want to just gush about certain aspects, but I also want to leave the game spoiler-free so people can experience them blind if they haven't already. So I will compromise by talking about one specific short story from the game that resonated with me personally. If the game sounds like your cup of tea and you haven't played it, I highly recommend you skip to the timestamp on screen to avoid spoilers. One of my favorite stories from What Remains of Edith Finch is Lewis's. Lewis is Edith's older brother. The segment starts with a letter from his psychiatrist explaining his struggles with substance abuse. Once he sought treatment and became sober, he started to notice how monotonous his daily life is, especially working at a cannery. The game puts you into Lewis's shoes, having you play out his incredibly boring job. The psychiatrist starts to explain that Lewis was starting to withdraw himself from sessions, letting his mind wander, getting lost in thought. This is represented on screen by an additional minigame you must control on top of your usual job. You have to control one with your mouse and one with your keyboard simultaneously. You live out a whole story that Lewis is imagining in his mind, all the while still rhythmically doing your job. It becomes second nature. Drag, cut, throw. Drag, cut, throw. Drag, cut, throw. It becomes background noise while you focus on the world being crafted in his imagination. It grows more and more expansive. Lewis was losing himself in this made-up world. All the while, his boss claims he's a model employee. The world starts slowly taking over the screen, yet you still effortlessly and methodically do your job. The cannery as a whole became background noise. One day he was so deep in his own world that he didn't go home from the cannery that night, and his psychiatrist and family have been growing increasingly more worried for him. The whole screen is now covered in the dream world. It has become muscle memory now. Without even seeing the guillotine, you get the job done. The real world and his own start to blur. Lewis couldn't bear to remember that he is simply a cannery worker and not the mayor of Lewistopia. He bows his head to accept his crown, and the sound of a guillotine rings out. Lewis died of suicide. It's one of the saddest stories in the game, which is saying a lot because all of them are sad. But I think what hit home for me was how realistic the gameplay depicted that derealization feeling that comes with carrying out such a monotonous and draining job. I worked a factory job for 4 days before quitting for eerily similar reasons to this story. Standing at a conveyor belt for 8 hours, carrying out the same hand movement until it became second nature, drifting off into thought, trying to keep myself sane. This was the first piece of media that I had seen that fully encapsulates this feeling to a scary degree, and to have it be interactive and that accurate is insane. When something can speak to you in such a way that it shakes you to your core, that's art. I think What Remains of Edith Finch is a shining example of how well stories can be told in video games, even when they're called walking simulators, because I think the interactivity throughout the whole game was done in a way that it couldn't be told as a movie or a television show. It had to be a video game. It had to be done in this medium to reach the highs that it did. I only just finished Before Your Eyes last week, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm only going to play footage from the trailer in the background and keeping this very vague and short, as this is another game that I think needs to be experienced with as little prior knowledge as possible. The game uses your webcam to track when you blink. You blink to interact with things and move time forward. Sometimes you don't want time to move forward, but your eyes are feeling particularly dry. I thought I would hate this mechanic as I blink a shit ton. I was worried I would miss out on a lot of content, and at times I did. But I loved this mechanic. It made the story feel more interactive and gave me a feeling I don't think I've ever experienced before when playing a video game. It is so incredibly unique. And you'd think that was enough, but they just had to go and write a phenomenal and depressingly sad story. Do you know how hard it becomes trying not to blink with tears welling in your eyes and a lump in your throat? I sobbed like a baby at the ending. I genuinely believe that this game is a must-play, not only for the innovative gameplay loop, but also for the short but sweet story. If you feel like you need a good cry, I wouldn't hesitate to pick this one up. It's an especially strange feeling when you finish a piece of media and it simultaneously cements itself into your mind, but also leaves a void that you will never be able to fill. The good news is that the more you search for this feeling, the more you will find it. Sure, it comes in different shapes and sizes and will make you feel different each time, but I assure you, you will experience that feeling plenty more times. I also highly encourage you to make things, whether that be games of your own, or art, or music, or videos, or films, whatever your preferred medium, because that feeling you are chasing could very well be infused into your own art, influenced by all the experiences that have made you feel this way, and what you make could very well be the feeling someone else out there is chasing. It could be what they need right now. If you got this far, truly, thank you for watching, and I will leave you with a question. What is a video game you wish you could experience again?